Senator Ron Johnson got grilled by a really, really effective interviewer about his involvement in the fake elector scheme. So to give you some context, if you've heard about this plenty, I'm sure, but kind of to refresh your memory, there was this plan among Trump allies after Trump lost the 2020 election to get fake electors, meaning that people who aren't actually the ones that the state legislators are sending to Washington to cast their vote for the presidential candidate that the state actually went for through our election process. Those electors are supposed to get counted. They were going to try to send just completely fake ones and have that be a justification for Vice President Pence to go, oh, maybe these are the real electors and Trump actually won the state. Okay. And they had this whole plan of signing kind of fraudulent documents to make this happen. And it didn't end up working, but there's a lot of questions around what was really being attempted, because this is real election overturning type behavior. And so everyone involved needs to be pressed on it. And Senator Ron Johnson was definitely involved in some form or another. He's trying to make it out to be very, very minor. And I'm about to get to an interview he does where he just falls apart during it as far as his ability to effectively communicate and keep with the narrative he's trying to run. It's hilarious. He can't get his words out properly. He's mumbling and bumbling because I think he knows that he's lying. He doesn't know where to go. So we'll get to that. But it's fascinating to see people who seemed in the moment to be so proud to try to help Trump stay in power, because in that moment, that was what was most beneficial. Now, trying to be like, oh, I was barely a part of it. I don't care. So the supposed involvement he did have was his chief of staff was told by a Trump lawyer to get a set of documents to the vice president. And I guess Senator Ron Johnson was going to help do that. And so then Ron Johnson came out and said, no, I was told that I was supposed to get these documents to Vice President Pence, but then I heard that Pence actually didn't want them, and so then I didn't give them, and I didn't even know what the documents were. I mean, I barely knew what the documents were. It was a 2-minute thing is what he kept saying. It was just like a 2-minute process. I wasn't a part of it. And so then after we watch this, we'll take a look at him getting called out by a colleague. Take a look.
Moving on to the alternate slate of electors. Of course, we're going to talk about that. And I know you've said publicly that it's a non-issue what happened with the slate of electors and your involvement.
I had no involvement. I received either 3 texts and I sent 2 texts, or the other way around. I mean, my lack of involvement was seconds worth of texting.
But that's still involvement.
But I didn't even know. I was texted that something had to be delivered
Beep, bop, boop.
to the vice president. I didn't know what it was. And was there somebody that could help arrange delivery? So then I talked to my chief of staff, and he took care of it. We found out that the vice president wasn't accepting anything. He said, can't deliver anything. That was the end of the story.
But if he would have said yes?
You can't call that involvement.
But if he would have said...
He changed his story a bunch of times, because at some point he said that it was something to do with Wisconsin electors, and then sometimes he says, I didn't even know what it was. So I find it unlikely that you're reached out to and told, I need you to deliver a set of documents for some reason to the vice president, but I'm not going to tell you what that reason is, and then you're like, okay, sounds good to me. Nah, you were told.
Yes, go ahead and deliver it, even though you didn't know what it was?
What would you do if you get a call? If you get a call from the president of the United States lawyer wanting to get something to the vice president,
but you didn't know what.
You go, wait, why are you involving me in this? You're the president of the United States lawyer. I think you're a lot closer to the vice president than me.
No, was.
Again,
wouldn't you want to inquire what something is to hand to the vice president of the United States during such a critical time?
I didn't hand anything to the president. I wasn't involved.
But if you would have said sure.
I wasn't involved. You can make it seem I wasn't involved. A couple texts, a few seconds of my time. I couldn't even remember what I had done, which is why it took a little while to piece it all together. But we pieced it all together. I received.
What's an elector? Where's Wisconsin? What does that mean?
Received 3 texts and I sent 2, or vice versa.
Was Sean Riley working rogue? Did he go rogue? Was he working
As chief of staff.
No, he was my new chief of staff. He'd worked for me earlier. He'd been in the White House. He knew these people. Somebody was asking him to arrange a delivery of something to the vice president. He contacted the people that he knew for the vice president, said, we're not accepting anything. End of story.
So he knew what he was doing, even though no one knew what that thing was.
We weren't doing anything. We were just, were we supposed to deliver something or not? Did the vice president want it?
This is such a bizarre story to go with. Okay, so you were told from the president's lawyer to get a set of documents to the vice president? You're just a senator? Why are you doing this? And then you weren't told why? And you're okay.
Vice president we didn't deliver anything.
If
It's a complete nonsense. I know the news media is trying to turn it into a story. I know the January 6th committee tried to turn it into a story. They didn't do their due diligence. They didn't, by the way, publish the full text exchange, which shows the vice president was expecting this. It was supposed to be delivered some other way.
If you're subpoenaed, would you testify?
That's speculative. There's nothing to subpoena me about.
But if you were, would you testify?
Let's see how he answers.
Listen, I would probably honor subpoena, sure.
Okay, cool. And there is something to subpoena you about. They're trying to get to the bottom of if you were a part of an attempt to overturn an election. That's a big deal. That's not just the media trying to create a story. That's real stuff. That is you possibly, even if it is just handing off a document, what happened with that document? Right? You were supposed to hand it. Vice President Pence didn't want it. What was that document? Did your chief of staff look at it? Was it a plan in relation to it? What was it? And then how much knowledge did you have? All those questions are very important. Because again, there was a plan, 100% we know for sure, to send fake electors to give the justification to keep Trump in power. He lost an election. They're trying to keep him in power. That's a non-military coup right there, trying to be attempted. I know that sounds super hyperbolic, but how else do you describe it? That is what that would have been if Trump had successfully gone through with that plot and stayed in power. So Ron Johnson, however big or small you feel like it was, the fact that you were reached out to be, in your eyes, just a messenger, we're not buying it, but okay, is a big deal. And we need to know all the specifics of that. And one of his colleagues is calling him out on that. Look at this. Ron Johnson, lying or incompetent in case of fake elector slate, according to Representative Ron Kind. Representative Ron Kind had harsh words for his Wisconsin colleague, Republican Senator Ron Johnson, on Friday, calling for an investigation into his involvement with the state's fake electors in 2020. During a Tuesday hearing, the House Select Committee investigating January 6th revealed that Johnson's chief of staff, Sean Riley, texted Vice President Mike Pence's legislative director in late 2020 about sending an alternate slate of electors from Wisconsin and Michigan that would overturn Joe Biden's victories in the states. Johnson has attempted to deny or distance himself from the situation, recently claiming that he only connected Riley with a lawyer working with Donald Trump's effort to throw out votes in the state. And then it goes on to say that Kind said he's either lying or incompetent, which I agree. And maybe it is him being incompetent, but we've just seen so many people who were knowledgeable and knew what they were doing and were working on behalf of this mission. So that also wouldn't be surprising either. And the story doesn't seem to fit that well. So hopefully the January 6th committee and any surrounding investigations get to the bottom of it, because it is important, and we will continue to follow it.